Heartwarming revelation. Janitor's daughter discovers incredible solution when CEO faces crisis. Mia felt the weight of the town on her shoulders as she wiped down the community center tables, each stroke of the rag a reminder of her life as the janitor's daughter. She spent countless hours here, finding a rhythm in her work that calmed the storm in her heart. The buzz around town was electric, charged with rumors of the tech CEO, David Thompson, caught in a scandal as dark as the shadows in the alleys back home. Her father, a war veteran and proud man, had already faced the brunt of the mounting tension. Now on edge, waiting for the storm to pass, she scrubbed. She overheard snippets of hushed conversations, whispers of the company's exploitation, and her father's worn face came to mind, a man who fought to make a living just to keep the family afloat. Mia's heart ached. His sacrifices echoed in the silent corners of their modest home. Yet, amidst it all, she felt invisible, an outsider in a town that glorified wealth. Then she heard David's voice, sharp and urgent, cutting through the air like a knife. "We have to fix this before it spirals out of control," he urged to his team, desperation lacing his every word. For the first time, Mia saw vulnerability in the man whose almanacs of privilege had made it effortless to ignore the struggle of families like hers. If he was trying to salvage his empire, wasn't it time for her to seek a voice in the chaos? Her determination ignited. She turned to the townsfolk, gathering them for a town hall meeting. Standing before them, nerves tightly coiled in her chest, Mia presented her idea of integrating worker feedback into workplace standards. "We deserve dignity and respect," she proclaimed, her words ringing with passion. For a brief moment, she felt invincible, buoyed by their supportive murmurs. Yet her heart dropped when David dismissed her suggestion, his voice laced with condescension. "It's idealistic but not practical," he scoffed, and the air thickened with tension, her insecurities clawing at her resolve. Before Mia could wilt under the weight of dismissal, a wave of support surged through the crowd. They rallied behind her, igniting a spark within her that she didn't know existed. She decided to confront David directly, her voice steady but her heart racing. "Your choices have consequences, and my father's dignity is on the line," she challenged, each word pouring from a place of raw honesty. Murmurs of agreement rippled through the room as Mia held her ground, magic threading around them, as if the very air sparkled with possibility. In this moment of confrontation, both David and Mia faced a reflection of their own truths. Privilege collided with hard work, perspectives mingled, and each was transformed by the other's courage. But just as their nascent alliance began to bloom, an unforeseen obstacle loomed on the horizon, a wave of skepticism brewing in the community, threatening to drown out their voices. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. The path ahead was fraught with challenges. Would their newfound partnership withstand the storm? As Mia prepared to face the brewing unrest, she understood one thing deeply. The collective heart of the town beat stronger together. With each step, they were inching toward a future where dignity and respect reignited hope. But would it be enough to change everything? Mia stood at the front of the community center, her mind racing like a roller coaster. The faces before her brimmed with uncertainty, whispers wrapping like fog around the room. News of David's dismissal still stung, creating a tight knot in her stomach. She could feel the energy shift, the hope of her supporters teetering perilously close to despair. "Did you see the way he laughed?" someone muttered, shaking their head. "How can he understand our struggle?" Mia's heart sank. The skepticism was seeping in, eroding the initial sense of unity she ignited. But she couldn't let that happen. These people were counting on her, just as much as her father had always counted on her to be strong. She took a deep breath, glancing at her father's old painting of their small town hanging on the wall. Timeless, resolute like him. "Look, I know it feels hopeless," she began, her voice trembling but growing steadier with each word. "But we have the power to change things. David isn't a villain. He just lost in the world of profits and losses. A wave of gasps echoed through the crowd. Mia pressed on, every ounce of resolve pooling into her words. If we don't stand together, we'll be drowned by the silence. Forget the wealth or the power, it's us, the people, that bring life to this town. The murmurs started to soften, replaced by thoughtful silence. Slowly, faces began to nod, gathering strength in that shared moment. Then, a woman in the back stepped forward, her eyes glistening with unshed tears. Mia, if we don't try now, when will we ever? Taking this spark, Mia felt a swell of encouragement. She wasn't just fighting for her father anymore. She was fighting for every parent, every child who had felt the sting of neglect. They would all rise together. Then let us organize, she urged, passion fueling her voice. We'll reach out to the press. We'll make sure our stories are heard. The crowd erupted. Cheers filled the space as hands pumped into the air, the energy shifting from fear to fierce determination. They broke into small groups, each passionate voice now part of a unified discord, brainstorming ideas, rallying plans, and preparing to share their collective narrative. But just as hope seemed to sparkle on the horizon, she spotted David entering the community hall again, his expression unreadable. Why are we gathering here? He demanded, the air around him suddenly charged with tension. What is all this? Before anyone could answer, Mia stepped forward, her chest tight yet firm. We're taking our voices back, David. It's time for us to be heard. His brow furrowed, and for a fleeting moment, he appeared taken aback, as though he were struggling to grasp the rapidly shifting landscape. Mia, this is business. You're inviting chaos, he replied, voice low yet powerful. I'm inviting change. She countered firmly, heart racing. Do you truly want to keep sailing blind while our lives are at stake? A silence enveloped them, filled with unspoken challenges. David's eyes scanned the room, and for the first time, Mia saw a flicker of something fear, perhaps? Or was it understanding? This moment hung in the air, both a crucial turning point and a fragile thread suspended over fear and hope. As they stood locked in a battle of wills, Mia grasped that her fight against the tide of skepticism had just begun. Would David finally see the truth in their struggle, or would he retreat to his fortress? The outcome felt uncertain, lurking on the edge of despair and possibility, and Mia braced herself for what lay ahead, because the real battle was just beginning. Mia felt the weight of the room press in on her, as David's challenge hung thick in the air. It was a moment thick with tension, emotions swirling like storm clouds overhead. She noticed small shifts among the crowd, the uncertainty etched in their features, the flicker of doubt that threatened to reignite. But together, they had taken a step towards change, and she wasn't going to let it fizzle out now. David, she said, determination simmering in her voice. There's a difference between business and community. This isn't just about numbers, it's about lives. You can't forget that. His lips tightened, his jaw flexing, but Mia could see a crack forming in that icy facade. I understand the numbers matter. He shot back, frustration marking every word. But how can you expect me to breach corporate walls built over years? You want change, but it's not that simple. With every sentence, every challenge, Mia felt her heart beat louder, a rallying cry beneath the fear. It is simple, David. We need dialogue, not orders. Voices from the crowd began to hum with agreement, like wind brushing through the trees. Exactly, called an older man from the front. We want to work together, not as enemies. We want to find solutions that pour into our community, not drain it. The murmurs of agreement rippled through the room, and Mia could sense the defiance building like a wave. David's brow furrowed deeper as he took in the scene. I don't think you understand how these things work, he replied, though the conviction was slipping. His posture remained rigid, but Mia caught the inner storm within his gaze, a flicker of doubt, maybe even fear at the prospect of losing control. But you don't understand us, either, Mia said softly, stepping closer. You're not just a figurehead. You're a part of this, too. This community raises its children. It nurtures dreams. We need you to listen, to lead differently. We need you to become a champion rather than a general. Around her, people were nodding, faces alive with hope and resilience. It was a sight that tugged at every corner of her heart. Each person in the room was a piece of her childhood, her memories, every laughter shared, every hardship faced. It's not about chaos, she continued, her voice pouring out the hope within her. It's about collaboration. Think of how many people are relying on you to open that door. At that moment, David took a breath, a long exhale that seemed to release the tension wrapped tightly around him. He ran a hand through his hair, a gesture filled with uncertainty. All right. His voice, though still misunderstandable, held a hint of reluctance mixed with curiosity. Let us hear what you have to say. The room erupted again, voices layered over each other in excitement. Laughter bounced off the walls, the initial fear pooling into something warm and tangible. They rushed forward, eager to share their ideas, their stories, their hopes. Mia's heart soared at the transformation, a pulse of energy thrumming through the atmosphere. If they could keep David engaged, maybe just maybe they could create an alliance that would shift everything. But as she glanced back at David, she could see the worry in his eyes. This was just the beginning, and uncertainty still loomed. Would his willingness last? Or was it merely a facade masking deeper doubts? The room began to blur around her as adrenaline surged, not only from the excitement of the moment, but from the realization that their voices were being heard. Yet, one question echoed overwhelmingly in her mind. Was this breakthrough strong enough to break the walls David had built? And somewhere, deep down, she feared that this was only the tip of the iceberg. What awaited behind those walls, and would they be ready when it came crashing down? As the crowd surged with enthusiasm, Mia felt the hope in the room swell, creating a buzz that reached a fever pitch. Ideas were flying, projections shouted, and laughter erupted, echoing against the walls. David stood at the center of it all, his expression fluctuating between apprehension and something approaching curiosity. Each suggestion, each heartfelt story, was a brick chipping away at the walls he built around himself. Maybe we can host a community fair, a young woman suggested, her eyes bright with excitement. It'll bring everyone together. We can showcase our local businesses, share our culture. Yes, another voice chimed in from the back. And we could use that as a springboard to address the bigger issues: education, job training. We have people here who can teach skills right in our own neighborhood. Mia watched as a spark ignited in David's eyes. He leaned in, listening. This was progress, but a part of her still hesitated. They needed more than just ideas. They needed a commitment from him, a promise of real change. David, she called, raising her voice slightly to cut through the energy buzzing in the room. His gaze shifted to her, curious yet cautious. We need you to join us not just in word, but in action. Can you really stand with us on this? For a heartbeat, there was silence, as if the room itself was holding its breath. David's posture shifted, a sign that the ice was melting just a little. I'm not opposed to the idea, he began slowly, but you must understand the limitations I'm facing. Our company, it won't be easy to convince them of these changes. And we don't expect it to be easy, Mia answered, drawing in her breath and pushing forward with sincerity. But we can't keep waiting for perfect conditions to act. Sometimes, you have to make a leap of faith. The silence that followed felt heavy yet promise-filled. David looked around, his eyes flitting from one hopeful face to another. There, in those eyes, he could see not only the weight of expectation, but also a flicker of unyielding faith. I'll consider it, he finally said, a soft determination creeping into his voice. The crowd erupted into a mixture of applause and cheers, a wave of warmth washing over Mia, wrapping her in its embrace. Thank you, she shouted, her voice cutting through the applause. That's all we're asking, for consideration and engagement from your side. As the room filled with renewed vigor, David glanced at Mia, and for a moment, he seemed less like the corporate titan and more like a man confronted with a choice. He had stepped tentatively out of his fortress, and Mia couldn't shake the feeling this was the first step into a new light for both him and the community. However, as the adrenaline began to settle, doubts crept back into the corners of Mia's heart. What if their efforts were in vain? What if David's corporate loyalty eventually pulled him back into the shadows of indifference? She shivered at the thought, needing some reassurance that they were on the right path. In the midst of the noise, she glanced around at the people she loved, the faces that had nourished her spirit over the years. They deserved more than just words. They needed action, results, and the assurance that David would truly fight for them. As discussions buzzed anew, an unexpected knock echoed through the hall, silencing everyone. The door creaked open, and an unfamiliar figure stepped inside. Mia's heart raced. Who was this? What did they want? Instinctively, she felt the air shift, an unease spreading like wildfire among the crowd. The joy of the moment was suddenly threatened by the unanticipated arrival, and Mia could only hope it wouldn't jeopardize everything they had just worked so hard to achieve. What news would this stranger bring? The figure that stepped through the door was slight, almost timid. A girl, no older than 17, with unkempt hair and wide eyes that darted from face to face. Dressed in a faded hoodie and jeans, she didn't seem to belong here. Yet there was a fierce determination that cut through the collective anxiety in the room. "Excuse me," she called out, her voice wobbly but firm. "I know I'm not supposed to interrupt, but I really need to speak. It's important." The room fell into a hush. All eyes turned to her, and Mia felt a surge of compassion for the girl standing there, vulnerable yet brave. David looked taken aback, uncertainty flashing across his features. Mia stepped forward. "What is it?" "You're safe here," she said softly, signaling for others to give the girl space. The girl took a deep breath, collecting her thoughts. "I'm Anna. My dad works as a janitor at your office," she began, her voice stronger now, emboldened by the warm gazes of supportive listeners. "He always talks about how much he loves this community and the people in it. But he is worried. You see, his coworkers don't always get the opportunities they deserve. They're strong, capable people, but they're overlooked." Mia felt a tightening in her chest. This wasn't just a random interruption. It was a wake-up call. "Go on, Anna," Mia encouraged. "Last week, at dinner, he mentioned a program they used to have, something that helped janitors get training in various trades. They'd bring in retired professionals to teach them skills that could change their lives. It made a big difference at that time, and it could again," Anna said, her words tumbling out in a rush. Murmurs rippled through the crowd. Conversations about takeaways and next steps shifted. The suggestions had been about community fairs and cultural showcases. But the recovery of a forgotten program, held real promise. "Imagine," Anna continued, catching her breath, "if we reintroduced something like that. We could reach so many people. It could help those who clean our offices, making them feel valued. They could learn and grow, maybe even change their lives." David's expression grew thoughtful. The room was now charged with a new energy, buzzing with the realization that change wasn't just a big idea. It could be something as simple as mentorship and community support. The concept of hand-ups over handouts began to resonate. Mia felt her heart soar. This was what they needed, a connection between those who had resources and those who needed them. Anna's words had opened a door, and perhaps even a path for David to consider his role differently. "But how do we start?" David asked, his voice steady now, the apprehension replaced with hope. "What do you need from us?" Anna's eyes brightened. "We could host workshops, gather people willing to teach, bring in volunteers. All we need are spaces and maybe some supplies. And your support, of course." The crowd erupted in chatter again, ideas bouncing around, enthusiasm building like a tangible force. Mia exchanged glances with David, both of them stunned at the ripple effect this young woman had created. As cheers of encouragement filled the air, Mia couldn't help but wonder how one person's bravery could ignite a full-scale movement. Yet, a tiny voice in her head whispered back doubts. Would it be enough to sustain their momentum? What hurdles lay ahead? Suddenly, Anna turned to her, a look of pleading earnestness in her gaze. "Do you think we can do this? For my dad and everyone like him?" Mia met her eyes, feeling the weight of their shared determination. "We can. Together, we can turn this into something real." But as the crowd began to formulate plans, a shadow loomed at the back of the room. A disgruntled figure crossed his arms, a frown momentarily breaking through the celebration. His presence felt like an omen, a reminder that not everyone would be supportive of change. What would he say? Would he dampen their hopes with corporate constraints? The atmosphere changed again, tension tightening around the corners of the room. All eyes turned to confront the unknown. The answer seemed just beyond reach, hanging in the air like unwritten destiny. How would they respond to the challenges ahead? The room fell silent, the energy quickly shifting from excitement to apprehension. Anna's face took on a worried expression as she scanned the crowd, feeling the shift in atmosphere. It was impossible to ignore the man standing in the back, arms crossed tightly over his chest. His scowl was deep, as if he was preparing to rain on their parade. David stepped toward him, his newfound bravery pushing him to confront this unknown antagonism. "Can we help you?" David's tone was neutral but firm, aimed to diffuse the tension before it turned into something more. The man uncrossed his arms slowly, letting out a derisive huff. "Look, I get it. You all want to feel good about yourselves, pulling in janitors and helping the community. But reality check, what you're proposing costs money. Resources we don't have to throw around on noble but naive ideas." The weight of his words hit like a punch. The lively chatter that had filled the air just moments ago dwindled to nervous whispers. David fought to keep his composure. "But don't you see? We're starting with what we have: passion, skills, and people who want to contribute. This can work." The man smirked, clearly unconvinced. "You think a bake sale is going to make a difference? You think the bigwigs are going to notice?" Mia felt the knot in her stomach tighten. She understood the man's perspective, but also knew it could not overshadow Anna's vision. "We have to start somewhere. Sometimes, it's smaller initiatives that create the ripple effect needed for real change. If we can empower one person, others will follow," Mia replied, her voice shaking with emotion but resolute. "A cute story." His sarcasm dripped like acid. "But what if no one shows up? What if no one cares?" Anna stepped forward again, her determination returning. "They will care. My dad talks about his co-workers like their family. All they need is someone to believe in them. We just need to give them a chance." The crowd collectively held its breath. This wasn't just about a program. It was about faith in one another, in the community. David nodded, pulling on that energy. "What if we host a town hall? Open it up. Let everyone in, employees and their families included. Make it a celebration. We can spark interest and see who wants to get involved." Murmurs of support began to bubble back up. People nodded, their previous enthusiasm beginning to swell like a rising tide. The frowning figure in the back remained unmoved, but his presence now felt more like an annoyance than a threat. "Skepticism is healthy," David continued, looking straight at the man. "But this is more about heart. Let us gather people together and demonstrate what can happen when we work hand in hand." As voices lifted more in agreement, Mia caught Anna's eye. They shared a smile, one that reflected the fragile bond forming out of chaos, mixing hope with trepidation. The path wouldn't be easy, but it felt possible. Yet, the frowning figure shifted slightly, a flicker of consideration crossing his face, although his exterior remained unchanged. "You may think you know what's best for everyone, but when this fails, don't come back to me looking for support," he warned, his tone icy. David swallowed hard, but his eyes burned with determination. "We'll take that chance together." As the meeting wore on, Mia's heart raced with a mixture of fear and excitement. The idea of a town hall meeting floated elegantly among them. But would it be enough to foster real change? But something gnawed at her, a lingering worry tangled within all that hope. If they began this journey, what would happen when they faced setbacks? Would they crumble under the first bit of resistance? The concluding remarks landed, and laughter followed. Yet doubt hung in the air like a stubborn cloud, refusing to dissipate. As people began to gather their things, Anna whispered to Mia, "Do you really think they'll show up?" Mia felt the weight of every heart in that room, their hopes and dreams interwoven with uncertainty. "They better," she said softly, looking toward the man who still lingered at the edge. "Because it's all or nothing now." And as she turned away, she caught the familiar scent of freshly brewed coffee in the air, a reminder that even when the moment seemed dark, there was always warmth nearby, waiting to ignite. Could they overcome the obstacles ahead, or was this just the beginning of yet another uphill battle? The days rolled on, each one filled with a flurry of preparations. Anna and Mia threw themselves into organizing the town hall meeting. They plastered flyers around town, sent messages through social media, and even put a personal touch on invitations, delivering them door to door. With each step, hope mixed with anxiety. Doubts crept into their minds like shadows in the corners of a room. "Mia, what if no one shows up? What if we put all this effort into it, and the room is empty?" Anna said, her voice trembling slightly as they sat on a bench at the park, a stack of invitations between them. Mia glanced at her friend, feeling the weight of the shared worry. "But what if they do show up? What if we touch one life? I know it's scary, but we can't let fear hold us back." Her own heart quivered with the possibility of failure, yet she held on to the faint light of possibility. As the day of the town hall approached, the frowning man's warning echoed in Mia's head. She couldn't shake the thought of what it would feel like if they were met with indifference. But deep down, she clung to her belief that every small step mattered. The night before the event, Anna and Mia gathered at Anna's house. They spread colored papers and markers across the table, crafting posters filled with encouraging messages. Laughter broke the tension as they doodled silly drawings, but there was an undercurrent of excitement mixed with nerves. The warmth of their friendship enveloped them, reminding them that even facing disappointment together was better than standing alone. When the sun rose on the day of the town hall, the sky seemed to echo their anxious hearts, a swirl of gray clouds threatening rain. They arrived at the community center early, checking the sound system and adjusting chairs, their hands trembling slightly as they did one last run-through of what they wanted to say. As the clock ticked closer to the start time, the hesitant trickle of familiar faces began to fill the room. David arrived, grinning broadly while holding a plate of homemade cookies. "I made these for everyone. You know, a little sugar to sweeten the deal," he said cheerily, trying to lighten the mood. "Thanks, David. That's actually perfect," Mia said, trying to match his enthusiasm. But as more people shuffled in, her heart continued to race. She searched the crowd for signs of support, and to her surprise, they began to come. Families, workers, and friends, people from the very community they aimed to uplift, filled the room. Laughter replaced the anxious tension that had plagued her all morning, and for a moment, it felt like a real celebration. But as she took the podium alongside Anna, her gaze swept to the back again, searching for the man who had initially challenged their dreams. He stood there, arms still crossed, his expression unreadable. "Let us get started." Anna greeted everyone, her voice steady, hope stirring within her as she began to speak of their vision, their purpose. Mia felt an urge to share their story, the raw emotion coursing through her veins. But just when she opened her mouth to speak, a loud crash interrupted the proceedings. The doors burst open, and in walked a group of janitors, their faces lit with disbelief, holding signs that read, "We're here for change." Mia's breath caught in her chest. The realization washed over her like a wave. This was real. Anna beamed at the sight. "See, they care. They really do." The crowd erupted into applause, buoying Mia's spirits. In that moment of connection, she understood that hope was not just about grand gestures, but simple affirmations of support, tangible moments where community and heart collided. Yet, as the meeting progressed, the man watched from the back, his face inscrutable. Mia couldn't shake the lingering doubt. What would it mean for his skepticism if their success would inevitably lead to questions he might not want to face? As they welcomed stories and ideas from the crowd, a part of Mia couldn't help but wonder, would his challenges ultimately forge their unity or drive a wedge between them? The questions hung in the air, sharp and potent. She felt the passion flare up within. Something important was on the verge of revealing itself, and she was not sure how it would end. Would the night conclude in celebration or discord, and what truths would surface as they all began to connect? Only time would tell what kind of impact this moment would truly have on their community and on the heart of that contentious man at the back. The room buzzed with energy. Voices melded into a comforting hum filled with excitement and apprehension. One by one, stories poured out, weaving a tapestry of shared experiences and hopes. Families spoke of struggles with making ends meet, while others shared memories of joyful community events that had once united everyone. Hope was surfacing, pushing away shadows of doubt like the sun breaking through a clouded sky. Mia leaned closer to Anna, who looked equally enthralled. "Can you believe this? They want to be heard," she whispered, her eyes sparkling with pride. "See, it's happening. We're making a difference," Anna said, her voice barely concealing the wonder she felt. But still, the man's presence weighed heavily in Mia's mind. He hadn't moved from the back corner, his arms still crossed, as if shielding himself from the light that filled the room. Every laugh, every cheer, felt like a challenge to him. What was he thinking? Did he realize how close they were to something special? Just then, a tall woman stepped forward, her expression fierce yet vulnerable. "My daughter works 2 jobs just to afford school supplies," she said, her voice wavering but strong enough to command attention. We need better support for our kids. I want them to feel safe and motivated, not bogged down with worries. The crowd nodded, murmurs of agreement echoing through the space. Mia's heart quickened as she sensed a shift, a growing determination that was palpable, igniting an energy that seeped into her bones. People were rising up, inspired to voice their needs, desires, and dreams for a better community. Let us create something that lasts. Someone shouted from the middle of the crowd. Let us start a community fund. A wave of applause followed, even as the man's expression remained unchanged. Her heartbeat drumming in her ears, Mia felt compelled to step forward. What if we worked together to create opportunities for everyone? She asked, her voice steady despite the storm of emotions within her. What if we formed a committee to address those needs and helped each other? We can bring resources, support change. The applause intensified as more voices chimed in. It was happening. Their vision was growing, merging with the voices of their neighbors. But then, a sudden silence fell over the crowd as the man leaned forward slightly, a shadow contrasting against the cheerfulness around him. And what makes you think you have what it takes? This isn't just about dreams. It's about reality, and realities are harsh, he challenged, his voice low but cutting through the optimism like a knife that a chill swept through Mia. She felt the air thickening, tension coiling around them. What could she say to turn the tide? How could they reassure him? She glanced at Anna, whose brows were furrowed in thought. Just as her mind raced for a response, the woman with the daughter spoke again, this time more resolutely. We have each other. That's what we bring to the table. If we can't rely on hope, what else do we have? It's time to stand together. Mia's heart swelled at the unity blooming around her. She stole another look at the man, searching for any sign of softening. His eyes flickered with something inscrutable. Was it skepticism beginning to wane? As the voices grew more passionate, fueled by shared dreams and collective hearts, Mia realized that this gathering was just the beginning. But what lay ahead? She didn't know how the man would respond, but she felt a stirring within, a yearning to challenge him, to break down the walls he had built. Something important was surfacing beneath the surface, but would it bring them closer or drive them further apart? With a shaky breath, she stepped further onto the podium, ready to speak, ready to bridge the gap. Would they manage to unlock the heart of their community, or were they just stirring the pot of contention? Those questions lingered like stars waiting to be connected, and as Mia prepared to speak, one thing was certain. The next chapter was unfolding right now. Mia steadied herself on the podium. The energy was electric, and she could almost hear her heartbeat echo in her ears. She looked at the faces, so full of hope, but also concern. She had to say something that would turn this moment around. She could feel the man's gaze on her, his skepticism radiating like a heavy weight on a spring day. Listen, she began, a lump forming in her throat. I know it feels like the world is against us. It's easy to think we can't make a change. I've thought that too. But what if this is our moment? What if these voices that are filled with worry, passion, and strength, what if they're the key to something incredible? A ripple of murmurs cascaded through the crowd. The man's eyes narrowed, still guarded, but a flicker of intrigue tugged at his lips. Mia decided to press on. What we have here is more than just a gathering. It's an opportunity. We're not just talking about a committee. We're creating a community. Let us not only ask for support, let us become the support. Her voice started to rise, fueled by the warmth of their shared resolve. I believe that together we can start initiatives, create programs, raise funds, all to ensure our kids don't have to struggle the way they do now. We can lift each other up, put our hands in the dirt, and build something we can be proud of. She noticed Anna nodding vigorously in agreement beside her. The crowd had leaned in, eyes wide, expressions changing from doubt to hope. It was happening. She could feel the air transforming, a wave of unity washing over them. Then the woman from before stepped forward again. I've often felt lost, but standing here, I'm reminded of how simple it can be. When I've struggled with my daughter, it's been the small things from friends that have made a difference. Let us make it a structure where our children can thrive. We might just surprise that man back there, she said, pointing toward the shadowy figure. The crowd erupted into applause. Mia's heart raced at the solidarity that was blooming. There was still a knot in her stomach, but she felt lighter. Then, suddenly, the man spoke again, his voice penetrating through the cheers. You speak of opportunities, of building a community, but where will the funds come from? The struggle is real. It's not that easy. His doubt felt like a challenge. But this time Mia was ready. It's true. Nothing worthwhile comes easy. But what if we organized fundraisers? What if some of us pooled our resources to support each other's ideas? What if we reached out to local businesses? I believe they want to invest in our future, our children. The crowd began to buzz again, people nodding in agreement, murmuring thoughts of what could be. Mia could see the man's expression shift slightly, a crack in his stoic facade. For a brief moment, possibility drifted between them, like light peeking through heavy clouds. She could feel it, a fire igniting, a spark of hope that could quickly escalate into a flame. Let us take the first step together. What do you say? Are we ready to create change? Mia shouted, her voice ringing with excitement and energy. And just as the crowd erupted, the man hesitated. His eyes narrowed as he seemed to weigh her words. The shadows that cloaked him felt less threatening now, but uncertainty lingered. Mia sensed that this was a pivotal moment, an invitation for him to join them, for the crowd to assert their power. She stepped back slightly, not wanting to push too hard, yet feeling the pull of the moment as the room vibrated with enthusiasm. She waited. Would he step forward, or would he retreat once more into darkness? In that in-between space, anticipation crackled like electricity, and Mia held her breath, wondering if they were about to implode or if they would finally burst forth into something revolutionary. The answer hung in the air, waiting to be discovered. Mia's heart raced as she stood poised before the crowd, feeling the energy shift like a tidal wave. Everyone's eyes were on the man at the back, the embodiment of skepticism. The whisper of doubt in her mind battled against a burgeoning belief in possibility, a feeling as bright as the summer sky. Please, she urged once more, her voice steadying. This is our chance. Not just for us, but for everyone who has ever felt disregarded. Together, we can create meaningful change. It starts with us believing in ourselves. Silence fell over the room, the kind that crackles with anticipation. The man took a step forward, his posture slightly less rigid. Was it hope she saw flickering in his gaze? What you're talking about, it's admirable, he said cautiously, hesitation peppering his words. But you must realize that it's not that simple. Nothing worth having is simple, Mia countered, her passion firing through the air. All we're asking for is a commitment to listen, to navigate this together. We have dreams, and your support can turn them into reality. And then, just like that, as if seeking a bridge between their worlds, he exhaled deeply. Fine, he said, his voice lower but clearer. If you can organize this, if you can prove there's real interest, I will help. I'll talk to the board about funding and resources. Cheers erupted, hope exploding like fireworks in the night. Relief washed over Mia. They had taken that first, monumental step, but the obstacles ahead seemed daunting nonetheless. After a moment, Mia spoke. Let us do this, let us meet regularly, not just to plan, but to support one another. We'll begin implementing those workshops Anna talked about. We'll reach out to the business community for partnerships. Everyone deserves to feel valued. The applause and excitement fueled her words, waves of agreement crashing over them. People began calling out ideas, dreams, increased unity filled the air, as if every voice echoed an echo of strength and purpose. As the meeting wrapped up, Mia glanced over at David and Anna, both shining with satisfaction. David's smile was bright against the shadows that once loomed heavy in his eyes. You did it, Mia, he acknowledged, pride coating his words. Together, we did it, she corrected, feeling the warmth of shared victory. But that irksome doubt still flickered in her heart. What if this was just the beginning of a long and arduous path? With hope pushing her forward, she vowed to remain steadfast through whatever challenges lay ahead. A few days passed, each morning buzzing with excitement and nervous anticipation about the first workshop. Mia busied herself gathering volunteers and promoting the event at every corner of the community. People were showing interest. Her father's old friends began arriving to help, full of experience and skills to share, bringing with them tools and supplies, igniting sparks of inspiration among others. On the morning of the workshop, sunbeams poured through the open windows of the community center, warming hearts and spirits alike. As people settled in, laughter filled the room, and camaraderie seemed to thrive in that moment. "Look at this," Anna beamed, glancing at the turnout. They nearly filled the hall. "It's more than I ever imagined." "You were right," Mia said to her, pride swelling. "Together is how we'll thrive." Just then, the frowning man stepped into view, hands firmly in the pockets of his tailored coat. Mia's heart sank momentarily, her uncertainty creeping back. What if this was a sign of doubt? But he stepped closer to a group of new faces, introducing himself. His words began to soften, marked with cautious approval as he praised the gathering. He even offered to help set things up as a silent pledge of support. In that moment, something unlocked like a blocked dam releasing water. Muted tension ebbed away. The fears that once held their community bound began to fade. As Mia looked around, every person there seemed alive with potential and open to growth. In that simple hall, filled with laughter and determination, she felt the weight of what they'd built together, and it was beautiful. As the workshops commenced, everyone shared their stories, and familiar faces emerged: janitors, teachers, families, each thread connecting to another in a tapestry of voices. With each story, hope breathed deeper, weaving an unbreakable fabric of resilience and passion. Mia stood at the center, looking on as true transformation unfolded around her. Could they sustain this momentum? Would their heartbeats synchronize, creating a pulse of continuous support? Yes. Yes, they could, because their struggle mattered, because their stories mattered, and more than anything, they mattered together. As the sun began to set, casting hues of gold and pink, Mia felt a surge of gratitude. They were no longer individual shadows bound by fear. They were a vibrant community, standing strong and united. This was just the beginning, and it felt good. No, it felt right. As she stepped outside, wrapped in the embrace of that beautiful sunset, the world seemed alive with promise. They were moving forward now, together, firmly grasping the light that was just beginning to shine through. And together, they would shape a future that would forever change their little corner of the world. Don't wait another second to share this journey with your friends. Subscribe immediately to witness how this incredible story unfolds in our next episode. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and help us reach more hearts. Your comments mean the world to us. Let us know your feelings about this transformative ending. You need to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this hope in action. Show your support now.